Hi, everybody. Welcome to Jeff Klein's Speakers Sitting in Chairs, Chatting on Air. My guest today is Winn Fuqua. How you doing, Winn?
I'm good, Jeff. Thank you. How are you today?
Great. Let's talk about your last name for a second. Did I say it the best way? Because there's like 17 ways to say it, right?
There's everybody butchers it, but you got it right. Yes. Some people pronounce it Fuqua, some Fuqua. Depends on whether in the country you are, but we say Fuqua, so you bet you got it perfect.
All right. And what's funny, people may, I've another member of our speaker co-op is Clint Fuqua. Does he say it the same way?
Yes, he does. And I never hear anybody pronounce his name wrong. It's just mine. But he is a bodybuilder, and in the health fitness, so they want to get his right.
You think they're a little afraid, huh?
Yeah, maybe so.
So this format is just for us to, let people know a little more about us, get to know each other a little better. We'll talk about some of our stuff, but I want to take a second because right before we went live, you learned about the other folder in Facebook for the first time, and there's still lots and lots of people out there who don't know about their other folder, and that's other, O-T-H-E-R. So I'd like to share about it so we can add a little education to our chat today, okay?
Yeah, definitely. You bet.
So you have an inbox on Facebook, which is for Facebook private messaging or instant messaging. When you're on the computer, there's a whole rigmarole right now about the Facebook Messenger app for the smartphones.
Uh-huh.
I'll talk about that in just a second. But the other folder is where messages go from people that are not your friends on Facebook.
And I just thought they got lost. I didn't realize that there was actually another spot on Facebook in the folders that they got captured at.
Yeah, they just go there to die, and usually it's spam. Usually it's some, a picture of a girl, and it says, "Hi, I want to be your friend."
Right.
And so it really is funny that how much spam goes on Facebook, but we don't see it, and most people don't even know that you can access it to find that one message in 100 that isn't spam.
Yes, that you actually need to look at.
Yeah, and usually if you send a message to somebody you're not friends with, there is a pop-up that says, since they're not your friend, this message will go into their other folder. Do you still want to send it? And just like a lot of things on the computer, people just click OK when they see OK.
Yes, but don't understand really what it means.
Right. And this kind of equates with well, why don't you know about the birth of my child? I posted it on Facebook. I don't see everybody's post.
Right. If you post something at 6 in the morning, by 6:05, it's down 20 pages, and your friends don't see it.
Exactly. So, and for guys, I don't know how many friends you have on Facebook, but I got on Facebook originally as a business builder, and of course I have a lot of fun with it and connected with high school friends and all kinds of stuff like that. But I think I'm at 4,500 now.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Most of those people are not personal acquaintances.
And they really don't care that you have a cat and that it's named Boots and that, what it did for breakfast this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe once or twice in the last 5 years I've taken a picture of food.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want people to know what I eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do enjoy good food, and but yeah, it's not like that. Anyway, where did we meet? Remind me.
Jeff, it's been at least more than 5, maybe 8 years ago. I am not sure. It's got to be at some networking event. It could have been at a BNI. It could have been at, I don't think it was at Toastmasters.
No, were you a member of Prestonwood Business Networking?
No, I wasn't.
I didn't think so.
I was recently, but I wasn't back then. I was part of the Preston Royal.
Okay. Did you come to AIBI events at all?
No, not really.
That's funny. It's now CEO space. Because as you said, I don't remember. But I know we've been, business acquaintances, and then we got to be business friends, and I think we're now real life friends.
Sure.
So we've known each other at least 6 or 8 years. Was it through Speaker Co-op, or was it before that?
It was before Speaker Co-op.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I think in your past life you're a graphic artist or in the design industry.
Well, I had the ad agency.
Yes, the ad agency. I think it was something to do with that.
Okay. Because it could have been, I was involved in American Marketing Association and the Ad Club and the Ad League and all that stuff. So there you go.
At some point, I was probably sucking up to you to try to get a job. Try to get a photo job.
Okay, well then we're probably going back at least 10 years. So there you go. So how was your photography business different 10 years ago in 2004 than it is now?
Well, there's just the technology is so different. Now you have to be, yes, a good photographer, but kind of a techie geek, because everything you do goes through the computer. I still have stuff sent to the lab every week to be printed, but you don't send it. You don't have to do slides. You don't have to send your little film canisters off to be developed, and slides come back, and you send those to the client. So in some ways, it's a lot easier. It streamlines a lot more. I just use, bless you. I use Dropbox to deliver all my jobs now instead of sending actual film or even CDs anymore. Yeah.
Well, and do you even use film in a camera anymore?
No, I don't have any film cameras anymore. I sold all those about 10 years ago, actually.
Yeah. Are people collecting those cameras? Have they become like collector's items now?
I think they come like doorstops. I don't know if you'd call them collector's items or not. Yeah, I wish I had my Hasselblad still. I really do. They may be worth something in 100 years from now. My daughter could, cash them in. I think they would look cool just on the shelf, but I sold those a while back.
I found out that my first 35mm camera is somewhat of a collector's item. And I still remember, it's a Rico 500G.
Sure. Yeah, I know the Ricos.
Yeah, my grandmother bought it for me for my bar mitzvah. That was my bar mitzvah present. And since we lived in New Jersey at the time, we actually went into New York City to one of those big, Crazy Eddie kind of photography stores.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just, wall-to-wall stuff, camera stuff.
Guys yelling at each other and crazy.
I walked out with the Rico 501G, which I still have, which I saw on eBay for $100, which I think it was $65 when we bought it.
Okay, so it's appreciated in value.
A Bogan enlarger, and all the swag and chemicals and everything to do the whole darkroom thing.
Yeah.
And I in a box somewhere, some, black and white pictures that I shot and developed.
Right. That's cool. If you've still got it, that's pretty amazing. I don't have any of my old stuff from high school that I did.
Yeah.
I've moved too many times and I've lost it along the way.
And I think it was like a year or two later. It would have been 14. My sister and I went to, Mom and Dad flew us by ourselves to Chicago for my cousin's bat mitzvah. And the photographer they had hired, his camera broke. So I wound up at 14 taking the pictures for my cousin's bat mitzvah.
No kidding. Wow. That's pretty good. Did you realize what pressure you were under, or was it just fun?
I don't remember feeling pressured at all. I remember having a blast.
Yeah, because you were in the middle of everything. Everybody was looking to you to do stuff. That's neat.
Yes. Yeah, I got a big kick out of that. That was my first and last professional photography event. I shouldn't say it that way. As the photographer.
Yes,
a stylist and an art director, and I did a whole lot of there's the cat.
Yeah, I saw his tail come up, swinging around a little bit.
Yeah, that, and then he walked across the keyboard. That was I did like product shots, and we talked about that the other day. How that's one way your business has changed, right?
It
You don't
really
have.
has. I don't do a lot of product anymore. I started out doing studio work, and now I do all location with people. People ask me all the time, what's your niche? What do you love to photograph? And I think my niche now is people. It's people doing something on location because I love to communicate. It's hard to communicate with a beer bottle or something inanimate at the studio.
Oh yeah.
Plus, I can't be indoors that long. I've got to be out doing something.
Well, people have no idea how intricate a product shoot can be, like with food or salad. Oh my God, I remember seeing somebody moving radishes around with a stick when I first got in the film business. I couldn't believe that there was a person whose job it was to make the salad look perfect for the camera.
Yeah, it's like the radish wrangler. It's
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, and within like 3 years, I was doing some of that. I was never a food stylist, but I was doing that kind of work where it was okay. Now move the dish just a hair to the left. Oh, now go back half of that.
Yeah. And back then we were shooting Polaroids, and
Yeah.
it was I had a rule. You had to change 3 things in the picture before you could shoot a new Polaroid. Because, a lot of clients would want to change one little thing, shoot a Polaroid. No, change it back, shoot another one. It's like, no. You have to have 3 things before we waste $2 on a Polaroid. And now if I shoot in the studio, I'm just tethered to my Mac, and it's live. It's a big TV shooting to the shooting.
Yeah. Well, and I did continuity when I was in the film business, and I had a metal ring and a hole punch to go with my Polaroid. So I was doing continuity. So we were taking Polaroids and sliding them onto that metal ring, and then clipping it to my belt to have the continuity for the commercial or the TV show or the movie or whatever.
So you could go back yesterday and say, oh, what did we do? How did we style that? How did it look? And sure.
And one of the most important things that the Polaroid was used for us was taking a picture of somebody's house or an existing location, the way it looked before we took everything away and put up our stuff, so we could put it back the way it was before we got there.
You bet. And I do the same thing today with just my digital camera.
Exactly.
It's a digital Polaroid, basically.
Yeah. There's a company that they missed the boat somewhere. Actually, Polaroid and Kodak.
Yes.
They forgot what business they were in.
Right. They were in the memory imaging business, not the product business.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't remember, and actually I think it was at an ad league or a Dallas ad. Let's see. Dallas was the league and Fort Worth was the club. Anyway, it was at one of those events back, about 10, 15 years ago when the speaker talked about that very lesson about what business are you in, and he talked about IBM. And I was really intrigued by the conversation because IBM didn't forget what business they were in. They weren't in the computer business. They were in the document business.
Right.
So everybody remembers the Selectric typewriter and the word processor, but they were also the early adopters and developers of voice recognition technology.
Okay.
So they went from that ball typewriter that it was in every office in America.
Sure.
To being the first usable software to dictate to your computer to type for you.
You bet. And I remember my dad used to have a dictation machine, and he'd give the tapes to the secretary, and they would, type them out. Yes. Yeah. I think it's funny, Jeff, because IBM learned a long time ago. It's all about stories. It's not about what your product does. It's about the feeling that it gives you when you use it or after you use it. And I know you've over the years you've transitioned into a national speaker and running a successful speaking group. Over the years, for me, I've kind of evolved with my photography, going, no, it's not just a picture; it's telling a story about whatever I'm shooting. And the better you can tell your story, whether it's in front of the room or behind the camera, the more successful you're going to be.
That's true.
Have you found that in your own life?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's that whole there's also the element of no matter how much you plan, things change at the minute you start implementing them. That's part of it too. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Absolutely.
I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and it was basically just how to tell stories. And they had somebody there from Lego, the educational director from Lego, and he was talking about how Lego, it's not about their bricks and about their little, the newest invention or the newest design. It's about the stories that they want you to tell with the Legos.
Oh,
perfect,
wow.
Perfect example is GoPro now. The video camera that everybody wants and has. It's not about the camera, it's about using it to tell your story about what you're doing with it. That's why they're a very successful company in just a matter of a few years.
Nice. I love that. And I remember how jazzed you were when you came back from that Lego speaker.
Yes. Yeah.
What was it about him that made him so memorable?
I think it was just his passion for what he did and the way that he was able to just bring it down to earth and talk about, I never thought about using Lego with stories or putting them together. I just thought, oh, it's a company, they build toys, but it's what you do with the toys. And they had at lunch, they gave everybody in the audience, there's about 300 people there, a little Lego kit. And they said, okay, take 5 minutes and see what you can build, or see how many things you can build with this kit. And then they went around the room and interviewed people that had built different things. And everyone had a story with it. Who'd say, oh, you built, somebody, walking down the street, it looks like, why? And that person had to come up with a personal story for that. And so that kind of stuck with me. I've always been wanting, when I shoot weddings, it's telling the story of the day. When I shoot, at the gym where I work out, CrossFit, and I shoot there quite a bit, it's telling about, what you do while you're there. Same thing when you're on stage, whether you're giving a lecture on how to speak or you're telling someone about why you speak, you're still relating, it's still a story format. But yeah, I thought it was really creative the way they did it at the convention.
Have you spent any time with J. Lauren Norris because he's now doing some storytelling training?
No, I haven't.
And he's here in the DFW, but then we also have Rod the Storyteller White is one of our speakers down in Houston, and Rod's a coach and a Toastmasters guy who's turned storytelling into his brand. And he does these Power of Story workshops.
Okay.
I love that.
I think it's gold. I think he'll do really well with it.
Yeah, he really is. It's just and I try to start every talk, and I teach my clients to start every talk with a story. Either a personal story or something like I learned from Gary Rifkin, which is imagine this is happening to you at the beginning of the story, and that's the it isn't working out kind of thing. And then at the end of the talk, you say, now imagine that you're back at that story I was telling before, but things are different because you've learned what I've talked about today, and now your life is better, or your business is better, or what have you. So that imagine technique that Gary teaches has been really valuable for me.
I'll try to catch one of his talks, definitely.
Yeah. And that actually today I spoke today, and I was going to do the Imagine piece, but when I got there, I visited with some people in the room, and I just kind of got a feel for the people that were there at the lunch, and I decided that wasn't going to be as effective as just telling my story.
Okay.
And so I told my story, and I got nice feedback and some good results from the talk. So. You also have to be flexible. I know you know about being flexible.
You bet. You've got to change for the audience. Whatever gut feeling you get, that's the one you've got to go with. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but that's what you've got to believe in.
Yeah, and when a lot of people have seen you speak, if there had been a bunch of people in the room that had seen me speak in the past, I would have done the Imagine thing because they would have already heard my story.
You bet.
But there was only one or two people who had actually seen me speak or even knew who I was, which was really kind of nice to have. Because it's a whole different vibe when everybody, when a bunch of people in the room know you.
Yes. It's a little bit more pressure when they know you.
I don't know if I'd call it pressure. It's just it's just different, And I had one friend who I wouldn't say he heckled me, but he gave me a little bit of a hard time in fun.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff doesn't throw me off, but it was I'm not sure the people who didn't know either of us were in on the joke.
Yeah, I realized what was happening there.
Yeah. It's like, who's this guy insulting our speaker?
Yeah, they probably just thought he was a jerk.
I hope not, but yeah, I made it clear that we knew each other really well.
That's good.
But yeah, that's always something that anyway kind of comes up. Well, speaking of stories, do you have a funny or a good story about something that happened on a shoot for you? I'd love to see if you've got something that pops into your head.
Well, I could talk to you about a couple of brides that I shot last year, but I don't think I should since this is live. Maybe that's offline a little bit.
Oh, that's over a pitcher beer conversation, huh?
Yes, definitely.
Now, is that you're actually doing a topic about the Bridezilla thing?
Yeah, how to tame the Bridezilla. And that can be in your company, it can be one of your clients. It's just how do you deal with the Bridezilla, really. But this morning, I was out photographing over at Temple Emmanuel, and they had asked me to come out and photograph the very first choir group that was still with us. And there were 6 ladies, and they were ranging probably from 85 to 100. Wow. And so we got we had the cantor come in and the director of the choir to be with them, and we put them up on the bema and photographed them. And there was 3 of them in wheelchairs, so we had to use the lift that we have at Temple there to get them up on the stage.
Yeah.
And they were cute. They they originally we were going to do it with their choir robes on, and then one with them off. So we put all the choir robes on. It took 20 minutes to get everybody up on the stage and positioned just right. And we put the choir robes on, and I took the portrait, and then the cantor was like, "Okay, now y'all want to do one with the choir robes off?" And they're like, "No, are you kidding? No, it was hard enough just to get them on. Just take them off of us. We want to go." But the original choir, yeah, exactly. It was formed in 1953.
Wow.
And so that was a while ago. But these ladies were all lucid. A few of them could walk on with a walker, but then the 3 was in wheelchairs. And that was fun. I would have loved to have gotten a video camera and talked to them more on camera about their stories, because I'm sure they've got wonderful stories at Temple and through life.
Yeah.
But that was fun this morning. It was neat seeing the ladies and hearing them talk about different things.
That's great. We have a pretty stout Dallas Jewish Historical Society that they would have loved those interviews. Yes,
definitely. Maybe I'll talk to Temple and see if we can come up with an idea of videoing all the I don't want to say all the old people, that would be a lot of them, but what do you call somebody that's 100, a centurion?
Yes, centenarian.
Centenarian, there you go, yeah.
Centurion. Yeah, the commander of 100 soldiers is a centurion.
There's a little difference, just a little, yeah.
Just, a little.
I guess it'd be the centenarian that we'd want to shoot.
Yeah, the history of Temple Emmanuel. Well, that's an organization that you've had rabbis for 30 and 40 years, which is always pretty incredible.
Yes. Yeah. Rabbi Klein was. When we first got there, Rabbi Klein was just leaving, and now it's Rabbi Stern, and he'll be there for another 40 years, I'm sure.
He wants to leave, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And I did some work with the Historical Society a couple of years back, and a lot of them talked about Rabbi Klein, and then he had a predecessor who was also like a long-term, for a long time.
Yes, I can't remember his name, but
yeah, but you'd know it if you saw it, right?
Yeah, maybe even Rabbi Cohen. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I won't quote you on that. But yeah, I mean, what's the because I have an answer for mine, but what was like the most difficult shoot you ever had to do?
Wow, that's a good question, Jeff. I think I was shooting for Lego, the company, about 12 years ago, and they flew me out to, I want to say, Wisconsin in December, and it was a blizzard, and I was doing QuickTime virtual reality, QTVR, and that's where you can look around the room and pan around and look up and down on the computer, and now everybody's doing it, but back then it was very cutting edge. And Lego was doing a concept car with Johnson controls. And so now you get into a minivan and you see the TV on the back of the headrest, and you see the kids with their controllers playing the video games. Well, that's what Lego was designing 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Were the cars that are here today. And so they wanted me to go out in the dead of winter to photograph this concept car. And do some pictures and do some QuickTime virtual realities in the car so you could spin around and see all the controllers that they had. And it wasn't difficult. I mean, I knew how to do it, but it was a one shot, and everything I do is one shot. I don't get a second chance. But that was a bigger budget. Why they couldn't have found somebody out there to do it. They had to fly somebody from Texas. I don't know. I mean, but I was fortunate.
Sure.
I was one of the only ones in this part of the country that knew that technology and how to do it. So that was one of the more difficult projects.
Got it. My worst moments on a film set, and it's never while we're shooting. It's always the getting prepared for it, because a big part of my job was the advance work.
Sure.
Sitting in the reflecting pond at Fair Park in Dallas, sitting in the pond with the water up to my armpits.
Yeah.
In March, in the middle of at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
What, were you like a stand-in or?
No, we weren't. They weren't shooting till morning, but we had to get done before we could shoot. And we had the shot was Reebok, and it was all these big dollar professional football players like Emmitt Smith and some other guys walking on water.
Okay.
So we built platforms for them to stand on, so that they could then, and painted the tops of them blue, and they didn't really want to have to fix it in post to make the platforms go away.
Sure.
But there turned out to be no way that they would be invisible, because they didn't have a budget to do like a glass thing. So we built all these platforms, and the crew I assigned to do it, this guy brought in this master carpenter and all this other stuff. Well, wood float.
Right. They didn't have any way they didn't have any sandbags to anchor it down.
Well, they knew the wood floats, but they thought that cinder blocks would be enough to keep the wood from floating.
Okay.
And they just weren't. So we spent, and like I said, in the middle of the night, in 50-degree weather, but in the water, drilling, using our drills underwater to screw the platforms together to each other to make them heavier, and clamping them together, and clamping them to cinder blocks, and we needed twice as many cinder blocks as we thought we were going to need, and it was to the point where we had to, take shifts going and sitting in the cars with the heater on,
right,
to not get frostbite or whatever, hypothermia. And we had to have somebody going to make coffee runs, and it was awful. But in the morning we got the shot.
Yeah, you got the shot. You got the shot. That's all that matters.
And to this day, I don't have a copy of it. I've actually searched YouTube and the internet for those Reebok. It was the Olympic spotster for the Olympics for Reebok, and
Wow.
we shot for like 2 weeks. And back in those days, it was really hard to get anybody to send you a copy because they had to send it to you on a tape.
Right. Yes.
And you had to pay for they had 1/4 inch. It wasn't like VHS, and if you wanted it on VHS, you had to pay to get them to dump it to VHS. They couldn't. It wasn't like, just a few years after that they could put it on a DVD.
Sure. But yeah. Back then they had a dubbing fee and.
Yeah, and those spots, I've yet to find them anywhere. I'd love to have copies of some of those spots, but
sure.
Anyway, that was the worst.
And Jeff, let me ask you, can you hear my dog barking in the background?
I sure can. That's okay.
Let me go kick him right quick. I'll be right back.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right.
It's fine. It's fine.
I would yell at him, but it wouldn't do any good. I locked him in the room, and he does not want to be locked.
Now everybody thinks you kick your dog. So
exactly. I don't. He gets treated better than me sometimes. So
I understand. I get it. Well, so we've talked about it. Well, what about our best? How about one of your best experiences shooting?
I think one of the funnest things I've done, a couple of fun things. One, I shot Mike Modano for his first trading card when he came to Dallas for the Stars.
Nice.
And I don't have one to show for it. I wish I had. I've got a hockey puck signed by him.
Yeah.
It's not. No one. It's not registered or it's not authenticated. So I ended up with one hockey puck from that shoot. But yeah, if I would have known I would still be in business and I would outlast Mike Modano, I would have gotten a lot more stuff. But that was fun, and
They still have those sports card stores. You could get that if you really want. If you thought about it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be like I didn't see him sign it.
Yeah.
Plus, he's not in the game anymore, so who cares?
Well, I actually created a nice autograph collection while I was in the business.
Did you?
Yeah.
I should have.
Yeah, but I was, and the key to that though was I was never shy about asking.
Right. Yes. You just got to ask the right way.
Yeah. And there's a couple of autographs that I just never got. One was that I worked with Emmett for 2 weeks and didn't get his autograph. And I still have I don't think it's in here. I have we created a fake cereal with him on it called Emmett O's.
Oh, really?
And I have a box of Emmett O's that I still have. And one of these days when he's signing an autograph somewhere, I'm going to bring it with me.
Yes.
And get it signed.
You should.
But and the other one I didn't get was Tom Cruise. My first movie was Born on the 4th of July, which, as you know, was shot mostly here in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I just never, I worked on set with him a couple of times, and I never had an opportunity to get him to sign anything. And one of the last rap parties, I tried to get something signed, and a bodyguard got in my way.
Okay.
Which was crazy because he didn't do that. One of the great things about Tom, and I actually talked about this on one of the other chatting podcasts, was how great how he sat around after shoot days when we had 1,000 extras, and he stayed for an hour or two after wrap to sign autographs.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was a super nice guy, just really genuine and classy. Just a class act.
Yeah, that's cool.
I have a funny, and I won't tell it now. I have a funny Tom Cruise story from the shoot, but I never got an autograph.
Yeah. Remind me the next time we have a beer we're together. Remind me to tell you my Pete Sessions George Bush story.
Okay, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I don't think I should probably tell on live.
Okay, that's okay.
But, I forged a pass to get in to see George Bush when he was running for president. And I'll tell you about that.
Okay. I art directed one of the Republican debates that election cycle. It was the one before. It was when Steve Forbes was running as one of the candidates, and they had one of the debates. One of the Republican debates was here in Dallas at the Los Anatole, and our local ABC affiliate, Channel 8, did the broadcast, and I was the guy who went out and got furniture for the politicians, and for the anchor man who was the moderator, and I had to get a certain kind of stool because the moderator was a certain shape, and he needed a specific stool that worked with his shape, and he would be comfortable.
Of course he did, yes.
And not get stuck in the stool kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that set was on the front page of the Dallas Morning News in color, and that's another thing I don't have from my art director days, is that picture.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm sure I could get it. I could get the photo, but it's like you say, it's just not the same.
Right.
Too funny. So let's talk just a little bit about your speaking topics, because we are speakers chatting. You're a professional photographer, but your topics aren't. I mean, obviously you could talk about photography, but you also have some topics for business audiences.
Yes, I have two topics. One I talk about more than the other, but one of my topics is customer service and how it's not that hard. There's little things that you can do to just elevate your customer service, 50%, 90% of what you're doing. I think that in America today, on all different industries, the lack of customer service is just astonishing. And so, it's not just the fast food industry or the sales industry. It's across all platforms. And so my passion, and always has been, is to deliver great customer service to my clients. But on the other hand, I want it too. I expect it when I spend my money on my hard-earned money on things. I want to be appreciated.
I hear you.
So I just have a talk that is very, it's light, it's fun, but it is serious about how you can take your customer service to the next level. And that's my main topic. I love to visit about that. And then my second one is about Bridezillas. We've all got them in our businesses. Our clients are Bridezilla sometimes. Our coworkers are Bridezillas. And to me, a Bridezilla is just a pain in the ass. It's just a PIA, but somebody that you have to deal with in order to move on with your day, or in order to keep your customer happy. And
yeah, I think we need to tweak the topic title of that one, Winn. I think maybe it's like who's the Bridezilla in your life, or something like that.
Sure. I think that would be great. You bet.
'Cause I never thought about it being about anything but your stories with brides.
Okay, right, yes, and most people don't. Most people think they know me as as an advertising wedding photographer. They think that's where I'm going with it, but it's across all platforms. It's like customer service. It doesn't just relegate to one industry. Same thing with being a Bridezilla. It could be anybody at any time.
Yeah, I think we need to tweak the title so that that's clear. I love that.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I said, I've heard you talk about the topic title, but I haven't heard you say there's Bridezillas other places in your life. So we need to we'll tweak that in the next day or two, so that's clear.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah, not everybody on this podcast is, but Winn's one of the speakers that's a Speaker Co-op member, so he's on that website with topic titles and bio and info and all that good stuff. So
Jeff, you said you spoke today at lunch and you told your story. I mean, I've heard you a couple of times. What were you talking about today?
Today was the current version of the Business Networking Talk, which I've changed the title to Successful Business Conversations. I spent all those years doing a talk called 30 Seconds to Success, which is specifically about the elevator pitch. So by changing the title, I've made the topic a little more relevant across the board, but the content is driven by the audience. So it was a business networking talk, but we didn't spend a lot of time on the 30-second commercial itself. We actually spent more time talking about general networking principles like give referrals, damn it. instead of holding back, and that
Yeah.
a referral's not a recommendation, which is a big one for a lot of people.
Sure.
One gal she asked the question. She said, "Okay, so what if you get?" She says, "I haven't been giving referrals to people that I don't know personally and can vouch for. What happens if you give one of these introductions and they do a bad job, or it goes?" And I told her, I said, more recommendations I've given have gone south than referrals without a recommendation.
Well,
Because
I think that just because you give a referral, it's still up to the person you give it to QC that person, make sure that they're in sync, they are the right vendor or the right company to use for their product or
yeah,
project.
yeah, and it's not, and she was really hung up on what happens to her reputation if somebody does a bad job. And I told her, I said, the people I didn't know very well always did a better job because they wanted to impress me, so I'd refer them again. And then a very small handful of the people that I did know and had already worked with, they weren't thinking that way. So when they did a lousy job, there was no ramifications for them.
Sure.
But the reality is there were no ramifications for me. She's like, "Well, what do you do if somebody does a bad job?" I said, "Say I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Let me find somebody else. I didn't expect that to happen. I apologize. But I'm not going down my reputation isn't ruined because somebody screwed up.
Right.
Hey, heck, my reputation's not ruined if I screw up.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think there's two different types of referrals. There's one that, hey, I know Jeff Klein personally. I've worked with him for years. I've seen him speak a dozen times. He's your guy. He's a great speaker, personal person. You can take him to the bank. That's one type of referral. Or, oh, I know Joe Smith. I've never seen him speak. I've seen his website, and he's a speaker. It's how you present your referrals to how important they take them. I give out introductions all the time, and it's just an introduction. It's like, you need to know this person. That's it. Go figure it out.
Right. And I brought up the tagline for BNI, for Business Networking International, which is Givers Gain. And it focused on the importance of making the introduction and then letting them handle it.
You bet.
But people were also very surprised because I also talked about how I make introductions. When I give somebody a referral, I just give them a name. I don't give them the contact information because they're going to email me for me to forward the introduction along. And everybody in the room almost everybody in the room was surprised to hear that I only get 10 or 20% of the people I give those referrals to actually getting the referral because they don't contact me.
And that is so stupid. I mean, you give me a referral, Jeff, without a name and without a phone number or a contact. The next email is like, "Hey, Jeff, how do I get in touch with this person? You want me to meet them?" You bet. Why don't they follow up with you?
Yeah, and usually I actually write on the card, if it's somebody I don't know, I'll say, "Email me for an introduction."
Yes. Yeah.
And most people don't. Yeah, most people, like 80 to 90%, never follow up to get the referral.
And there's the key word right there: follow up. It's all sales is all about following up. Life is, you've got to show up 90% of the time, and you'll make a living. But you've got to follow up 100% of the time.
Well, and I told him that if you're going to networking meetings and you're not giving referrals and you're not getting referrals, you're just having lunch.
Yes, yeah. You're having lunch with your friends. It's a social hour. And I don't go to networking events to be social.
Yeah, exactly.
It's business.
And that's the biggest part of it, Winn, is people don't think of their networking as part of their job.
Right, and it needs to be. If they're networking, if they're going to 2 or 3 networking events a week or even a month, that takes time out of their job, and so it's part of sales. For me and you, networking is our sales tool.
Exactly.
and everything that goes along with it, the follow-up, the referrals, the recommendations, the customer service. It's a big package, and networking is definitely a big piece of it.
So same with the speaking. The two. I'm fortunate in that I'm an expert in the two things that are the most cost-effective ways to market a solopreneur business, a one-person band, is the business networking and the business speaking. And if you're not using, again, if you're going and speaking and you're not coming home with business cards of the people in the room, or ways to follow up, or even product, info, product sales, or whatever, then all you're doing is it's a hobby now. It's you're speaking to look at me. You're not using it as a business tool.
Yes. Yeah. You're speaking to hear your voice.
Yeah. I remember. It was as I was getting Speaker Co-op started. It was like 2006 or 2007. Somebody invited a speaker to one of my regular networking groups, and she told us about her book, but she hadn't brought any of them with her.
Duh! Oh my God! Yeah.
She didn't want to offend anybody by making a sales pitch.
Right. And why was she there? I mean, it was nice that she spoke, but she didn't want to make any money. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something we really focus on with, as you know, with Speaker Co-op is we're in business to do X, and speaking is how we're advertising that business. So before I leave the stage, I'm going to mention X and tell you how you can get more.
You bet. Definitely.
And if I don't, then I'm wasting my time.
You bet. Yeah, I announced this morning at Temple Emmanuel when I shot the choir group. Before the ladies left the stage, I was like, ladies, if y'all want to do a beautiful family portrait, the legacy portrait with you and your family, I'd be happy to help you out. Two of the ladies said, yeah, let me have a business card. How do we get in touch with you?
There you go.
That's marketing for me. Those are great candidates. They're people that have great grandchildren, and they need to have those pictures taken.
And they know that it's a pleasant experience working with you.
Yeah, and if I don't offer my services, I've done them a disservice, and I've cut me out of my business.
Right.
So, and I thought it was appropriate. It was okay to offer my services to them.
Absolutely. Well, you volunteer to help the organization, but you also volunteer so other people can learn about you.
Sure. You bet.
And when that picture goes in the Temple newsletter, it's going to say that you took it.
Yeah. Photo by Winn Fuqua. Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually something that I think it's a Bible Belt thing about the conversation about money being evil and all that other stuff. And I had a client, we found out too late that he didn't want to make money.
What did he want to do?
He thought money was evil.
Okay.
And once this coach I was helping work with this guy, once they had that conversation, within a year later, not only was he out of business, but he was also divorced.
Right. Yeah, wives like money. They like everybody, you got to have money to live.
Yeah, and on my list of priorities, money keeps getting pushed down after all kinds of other things, but the reality is, and I have coaches that help me with this, without the money, then none of the other stuff is doable.
That's right. Money gives you options.
Exactly, and it also lets you do good. If your thing about money is you want to be able to help people, well, you can help a lot more people if you have money than you can
if you're poor.
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer in capitalism.
Well, as my wife would tell you, I'm very expensive. I'm the most expensive man she knows. So it's good to make a living.
That's funny. I like that. Well, I don't think I didn't get to my great event story. My great.
Yes, tell me, please.
There are a lot of them, actually. I had a really good time in the industry. I think the top one, though, is my experience on Wishbone working with on the first 6 months of the production, where we built all the sets and created all the props, and figured out what some of the characters were like to put in their bedrooms, and working with kids and dogs was why one of the reasons I got the job was because I was good with kids and dogs.
Okay.
And so that was I did that for the first I worked several months for pre-production, and then I worked on the first 13 episodes of Wishbone, the PBS show.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was the best job I had in the business.
That's neat. We need to come up with a new Wishbone.
Yeah, well, I had an idea today based on something I heard on the radio as a motion picture pitch, but I'm again, like you didn't want to talk about some of those other people on this live broadcast. I'm not going to throw away my movie. I'm not going to throw out my movie pitch that I came up with this morning, just out there to the ether. I'm going to see if there's any way to get it to the right people.
Sure. Sure.
But it's a good one. I'll tell you off the air.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I still think about that industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jeff,
this has been fun. I've got to go. Let my dog out and get back to work.
Winn, give us your website.
It's winnfuqua.net, WINNFUQUA.net. And if I can help you out with video, or we didn't even get talked about my aerial drone photography that I want to start doing. That can be the next Google Hangout topic, maybe.
Aerial drone photography, I love it. Thank you so much, Winn. This has been Speakers Sitting in Chairs Chatting on Air.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity.
You bet.